about the noise, where legends rise. From the clouds to the crowd, this is Ckrowd, where Africa meets opportunity, where music meets magic.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another session of our L&D series. And as usual, I'm your host, Elias Ayodele. But today we're talking about something really interesting as well. And today we're talking about how African artists can break into international touring circuits. I mean, if you've been noticing, you notice that this is that year that everybody's in the international scene. We got somebody all the way from Accra, Ghana. He works as an international booking agent and as a radio OAP, amongst many other things. You know, when you say jack of different trades and still a master of those trades, this is I hope I get this pronunciation right. So this is Yaw Boadu-Ayeboafoh. Did I get that right? Hope I got the pronunciation right.
You were not so much off, but yeah.
You know.
But let me help you out. So it's Yaw, then Boadu-Ayeboafoh. Yes.
Okay. You're welcome once again. We're really excited to have you on this series. Being someone that is in the should I say live music industry, basically you're in the interactive industry, the interactive music industry, and I'm very sure you're very much familiar with how the international touring circuits work, how the we need to do this in this place, what are things that we need to put together. So I just want you, if you want to give us like an overview of the line of work, just give us a rough overview of it.
Well, it's hard work. I think I've been privileged to have learned under some of the great ones. I think one of my mentors and someone I learned from was Rudy Kwache, who is like a big part of this live industry that we have, especially on the African continent. And so I got to learn under his wings. Also, had the opportunity to work under one or two festivals to kind of hone my skills. So it's a lot of touring. It's not an easy job. I think I think in Africa, because most artists do not understand the concept of touring, because usually it's just getting bookings and playing events. It's usually hard for them to understand the full concept of what touring is all about. So it's a lot of hard work, to be honest.
Right. Thank you so much for that. I think it is really a lot of work because you have to you do a lot of cultural check. You do a lot of publicity. You do a lot of door-to-door things where need be and things that I think it's really easy a lot to do. Okay, so from your experience, what are the key elements international promoters look for before booking an African artist for a tour or a festival?
Well, before I go to that, I think one thing I would like to, a lot of people want to go on tour, but unfortunately they fail to learn about like the festivals they want to be on. I know most African artists look like, Charlie, we won't go on tour, we won't do this festival. But you always need to know that every festival has a theme and an alignment. So you need to understand what they are aligning to, the sound they are pushing. Most artists approach when they always want to go on tour, but they don't do their background research because not every festival is looking for the sound you are doing. So you always need to know the type of festival that you want to be on. Do you get it? In terms of those who are looking to be on festivals, you always need to know what sound are these guys always putting on their stage, because you don't expect to put, let's say, an Afrobeat artist on a rock stage.
Right.
So you need to do this research before you even start approach. But in terms of what promoters look out for, well, I think there's always the market demand, depending on the location. Usually, most festivals do their own research and the back end to see which talent that their patrons or the people who come to enjoy the festival want to listen to. So that's one. So they look at your streaming data. In touring, data is an extremely important asset because at the end of the day, it's going to determine a lot of things that come your way. You get it, and also your performance and your stagecraft. Most of these festivals, when they put you on, they expect something authentic, unique. They want you to command the stage because most of their patrons might not have probably heard your music, but the way you hold yourself on the stage will determine whether you are going to come back or not. So that's one. And like I earlier said, you should know the festival and whether your brand aligns with that festival and if it is a fit. Because because you can perform doesn't necessarily mean you are performing on any platform that you can lay your hands on. You get,
Right.
and you also need to have a professional infrastructure around you. Most of these international circuits, they understand the processes. Usually down here, sometimes you might miss a step or two, but there is always a channel. You need to have your managers ready. You even need to have a tour manager who is going to be able to handle every single aspect of the bookings that happen. So you need to have a professional infrastructure around you, no matter how small it is. There has to be, or how small you are, you need to have a structure which would help you on that scene. And also, I think there's a financial and logistical that side to it, because financial in terms of your booking fees, whether it's in the budget that they are willing to spend, and logistical because you're coming from Africa, we know getting visa is one of the hardest things to do. I think recently on social media, I saw our own Cubana chief priest crying because USA no give him visa, and that's someone who is affluent and can afford it. So
Right.
usually, when you have your visa, it is easier for you to be on festivals than you now going to get a visa, because there's a possibility of you getting bounced or not. So all these are factors that come in, and also your reputation. I think people do not realize that your reputation also plays a big part. If you have a bad rep, people will not like to associate with you. So
Right.
as you are building your brand, make sure that you are building a reputable brand that people can easily associate with. That when your name pops up, they're like, oh yeah, this guy will deliver. Yes, he won't disappoint. So all these are like aspects or bit parts that promoters or festival managers look at when trying to book talents for their events.
All right. So, thank you so much for that. So, supplementing that, you mentioned that there are some structures that need to be put in place, actually, and I'm
Yeah.
that we're talking about the African artists themselves, right? So, to appeal to these guys, what particular structures need to be put in place? You mentioned that the booking fees and so, but are there things that the artists themselves need to like do aside from I think you mentioned the point of them having to like handle, I mean, make sure that they're performing, like, I don't know what word to use, but they are
Hey,
appealing as performers, right? Are there other
yeah.
things that need to
Yeah,
be done?
I think one thing I left out is the music has to be good. At the end of the day, everything we do is surrounded around the music. So the music is an important element to the fact. Without the music, we are not going anywhere. So yes, the music has to be appealing enough to draw the audience. Then you need to have a compelling performance to push the enclave, because let's be honest, Burna Boy's biggest amplifier has always been his presence on stage.
Yes,
That is what has set him apart from every single person.
yes.
So once you have that in the bag, now you know that you're in a very strong position to
All right.
also get it. And in terms of the team structure, I'm saying yes, you need to have your manager. And to be truthful, it's always better to have a tour manager who is based in Europe if you're coming from Africa. In as much as yes, you can have but those there usually understand the system better because that's where they live and they have more connects. So if
Right.
you realize most of our talents have booking agents who are based on the continent. In fact, they have booking agents on every single continent to be able to
Right.
handle those
Each of-
conversations and pitches and all that. So yes.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Also, when you talked about the way streaming numbers and data, basically how data influence and affect touring. Could you like how does data particularly affect?
Okay. You know the way we have gatekeepers in every industry. Data is the gatekeeper of touring, basically. Data will determine whether you enter the room or you don't. So let's look at your streaming numbers. Okay, you're getting streams. Where in particular are your streams coming from? Let's say your streams are mostly centered around Europe, maybe Germany. It gives the promoter in Germany the idea that okay, people in this part of the world are listening to this music more. So that means in case you do a show, we are going to get people to come watch the person, because if you look at the streaming data, that you can see that the chunk of his revenue or streaming numbers are coming from there. So that's one. In terms of your social media engagement, and when we talk about social media, it's not about having 1 million or 2 million views. It's about how people are engaging with your post, because we have people who have millions of followers, but when they post, you see 10 likes, 5 comments. That is
Yes.
not return on investment. It doesn't give the sense that people are actually following you. But you can have like 10,000 strong, and when you post something, you are getting a lot of engagements, a lot of comments. That is how they measure your social media following in terms of that particular engagement. So if you're able to build a social media following and you're having that engagement, especially from where you want to tour, it gives the fair idea that, okay, there is a possibility that people are going to come. So we just need to put in structures and see how it goes. So that's why data is very, very, very important, because data kind of convinces people that this guy is marketable. And that is what the likes of Live Nation use when they want to sign someone on. Based on the data available to them. So if you're an artist without a big song, but you can always feel like a 2,000, 3,000 capacity venue, and you have the data, you can always walk into the Live Nation office and say, this is my data, this is what I've achieved. What can we do? And they're definitely going to listen to you. But if you don't have the data, because in our part of the world, usually people will do a concert and they can't give us verifiable data. They just give us numbers.
Yes.
But they can't give us like specifics. We got 2,000. They also more than 10,000. But they sold tickets. So it's some way. But up there, data to the latter, to the T, to the dot is very necessary in going places.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so what common mistakes do you think that African artists or teams make, when approaching international touring opportunities? I mean, from what you said now, we can tell that opposite of those things you said will cause it. I feel like in your line, there are particular examples that you have seen and you were like, oh boy, this little stuff that just messed up this whole arrangement for this guy. So I think I'm curious a bit.
Well, I think for most African acts, when entering into the market, we overestimate our importance. I'm to be honest here, because you realize, that this artist needs to start from the ground up because he's entering a new market, but then they want to do the 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 capacity. When they deep down, they cannot sell out. And that's what most people do not. It's not about doing the bigger venue. It's about selling out the venue you are doing. Right. Because let's say you start with 500. It's not, nobody's going to laugh you for doing 500. It's about the fact that you are filling the 500 to the brim.
Yes.
Then you can move up. Like there's template to this, but most Africans, like I know the issue, but I think the ego that comes Afrobeats to the world. Once they have a one hit song, they feel they are on top of the world, so they can do every single thing. But that thing crashes dreams really quickly. So I think for most Africans, look at the and always, in as much as yes, you might be able to do 10,000, and I promise and over deliver 2,000, do 2,000. Let the people know that, okay, there's still high demand for you. And within the next couple of years, you'll be doing like the stadium show like Bernard is doing. I'm going to use Bernard a lot as an example because he's like the blueprint. Because when he started, he was playing in smaller venues. He wasn't even filling all of them. But he gone to the stage now. He's doing stadiums. He understood the process of building from the ground up. And I think that's what most people need to understand.
Thank you so much for that. I think what you said, in fact, aside from music, the live music, POV or market, I mean, this is applicable to every sphere of the music industry. I mean, if you are just starting out as an artist and then you get a hit song, you're not supposed to feel like someone that's been in the game for like 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
And paid his dues, grown step by step, and then you are all of a sudden jumping into, I mean, look at Rema also. We use Rema as an example because when Rema also started, he had his hit song, Calm Down. He grossing like 1 billion streams. And still, we that before he even started to do some mega, touring, and stuff, he still tried to he was doing it bit by bit. We could see him attending certain events, making connections, so that when eventually it came about and we're like, oh, we want to have this our event at the O2, everything just worked, hand in hand and things like that. So, thank you so much for those wise words. I think those that would be checking that would be like, this is amazing. All right, I think my last question here, very short, very straight. So beyond performance itself, what steps should African artists, take to ensure their first international tour leads to more opportunities? So this works for someone that is just starting from the scratch now. Like, what should they do?
Yeah, I didn't hear the final part of your question.
Okay, sorry, what point did you hear me to?
I think you're about to end the question. but I think you're nearly ending.
Okay, let me take the question. So beyond the steps should African artists, take to ensure that their first international tour leads, more opportunities? Asking this on behalf of, say, artists that are just, coming into the game and they want to build and put themselves out there. They want to get these opportunities. How do they go about it?
Oh, okay. Well, it's easy. I think for every performance that you get, treat it as a showcase. So showcases are basically usually events that we do to kind of show your talent to the world.
Right.
And they are usually intense and performative. So treat every performance as a showcase because you are basically showcasing yourself to the world. You get it. So treat that's one. Also, it's not just about the cruise of going to tour. Build relationships.
Right.
If you get the opportunity to be on tour, don't just go and act like a diva and be in your trailer and go and perform and come back. No, this is the opportunity to build relationships. Find the producer, have a chat. Let your team members have a chat with every single person on board because you are also there to build relationships. And at every major festival, there are always other people scouting for talent for their festivals.
Right.
That is the beauty of it. So you need to be able to have a connection. So you need to network, conversate, make new friendships, and build beyond just the performance. Do you get it? Also show professionalism.
Right.
Don't go and beyond professional. You have to be professional in whatever you do in your work. That's how people would see him like, okay, this guy can do so. You get it. Also, like once again, the performance is important. And also don't forget to milk the exposure as much as you can do.
Right.
One thing most Africans we fail to do when we go on tour is we just go do the show. We don't do any media.
Right.
Yeah, we don't do any media. But the truth is that's where the audience are there. Once you are going into the city, try your best to at least maximize the exposure that you get by utilizing every single media opportunity that you're going to get. Right. Also, in this recent industry, content is king. For most people here who would be pitching for festivals, you realize that when you're soft pitching, you realize there's a segment for you to show your performances. So always make sure that you are getting content of every single performance you are doing, because that is also going to inform what the festival manager is going to decide on. So please maximize the content you take. Don't hold it on your drive or your phone. And it's not for your girlfriends. It's for your fans and it's for people who are looking at your page to see. Your pages are your CVs. Maybe, I don't know, artists they do not realize that their social media is their CVs.
Right.
Yeah, it's for you to put it there. It's not now like one artist, then you just have one post. I don't know why they do that. But your page is your CV. Let us see what you are up to, what you are doing. Yes, because I know people who are getting booked just off their social media pages. So leverage your content to get into people's faces. So yeah, so these are like stuff that people can do. And one thing I'll tell people is you don't need to be a big artist to tour. I think maybe Nigerians don't know, but most of the touring artists are Ghanaians, especially from Africa, are usually Ghanaians. And they are not our A-list Ghanaians. So usually we don't get into the conversation because we will compare our big artists to maybe a Rema or a Burna Boy. But we have the Sun Trophy, touring Europe and even doing Japan, in Jedubleambule. Like I think last 2 years we even had an artist on the Glastonbury, Alogate and the Joyous. It's a gospel artist. But they are not like names that they are A-listers that people know they are Ghanaians. But a lot of Ghanaian bands are going on tour and they do not even have like we say a hit record. What they have is beautiful songs, wonderful performances, and a structure. So I think following that same pattern, because I know there are festivals across the world that are looking for African talents to come showcase themselves.
Right.
So they are always on the hunt for fresh talents. They always want to be the early movers on talent. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. We just need to get stuff right. And yeah, you can be earning a lot of money without having to have a hit record or force a hit record.
Right. Thank you so much. I think that this is dropped a lot of bombs.
Definitely.
Bombs, right? Because I'll just try to track all the things we've said. people that get to see this episode and stuff. So far we've talked about how touring is not a stuff that just happens. It's something that we build from the ground up. It's something that takes time, and then you cannot jump from 500 to 5 million. You have to follow that process, 500 to 1,000 to 5,000, and things like that. I think we also talked about focusing on the performance, the music, making sure that your product is marketable enough, and then making data to ensure that the market value and the market audience is appropriately arranged and balanced. What to appealing to and what is not, what you should not do at the time. Then I think you also mentioned content, leveraging on content and exposure for occasions that you are. I feel like a lot of events and concerts and that we've seen African artists do shows of like 5,000 or 2,000, and then they don't really make noise about it. Maybe because they feel like, oh, it's just one small show. Which actually, depends what you've said now. It's of it, man. You cannot say that because you did 2,000. That means that the impact of that. I mean, we've seen events that were not particularly the biggest, and then they actually, made history in some ways and things like that. So yeah, I think these are points that upcoming artists, African artists, and everyone that's trying to make in the game should try to put in their bags, try to put to mind. I don't know if we talked about the place of artist managers working with booking agents, because I think I have seen we've heard a lot of complaints. Oh, this guy's artist, the manager is a terrible person, and then he just spoils the whole arrangement for the artist. I think you should actually talk about that, don't you think?
Yeah, but before I talk on, I just want to burst people's brain. Like Sharon, who is like one of the biggest artists we have on the globe, still does the O2 Bush Empire, which is not even 6,000. And that's a Sharon in his own country. So we shouldn't always be in a rush. Now, okay, so and advice to managers, because I also manage talent. So luckily for me, because I've been in the different fields, I know how it feels like. I think most managers let the fame to get into their heads and also become divas. But as managers, we do not have the liberty to become divas, because you can be a diva. But as a manager, you're always going to have a different talent that you're going to push through. And the that you are meeting now are the same people you'll be looking out for to help you push your new talent. So I think as managers, we need to be more humble. Yes, we do not want people to kind of disrespect us, which is understandable. But then some of the situations, it becomes too much. Like the manager is rather a diva, which makes the work even 2 times as difficult.
Right.
But yeah, so as a manager, you should always have that at the back of your mind, that you can always leave the artist and you have a new person to work with. So if you disrespect anybody, it means now that you are going with a new artist, the person is going to disrespect you back.
Exactly.
So I think the professionalism also goes to every single person on the team, like the manager. You need to be professional in your dealings. You should not be moved by emotions. Because you need to have a level-headedness when you go into conversations. Because sometimes it gets tedious, because sometimes the booking you want is not what you are getting. Maybe even the slot you want to perform is not what you are getting. So it can get heated at certain times or periods during the conversation. But you always need to be professional. Always. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who is sailing the ship. Yes, the artist is the talent, but they are sleeping in their first-class cabin. So you are the one steering the ship in the right direction. So you always need to have a level-headedness that will guide you in these conversations.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Mr. Yaw. I got that right?
Yes. Now.
All right. So this has been a really exciting session. I mean, we've talked a lot about stuff in very short time, which is really interesting. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your resources. If we get questions from our viewers, we eventually send them across to you, and then we'll send it to them to the answers for that. Thank you so much for your time.
They can follow me on social media at NYB_LIVE live, NYB_live. Yes, NYB then _ then live LIVE.
Okay. Let's that now. Okay.
Yes, and I also have a new artist I'm working with. His name is RC. They can go check him out too. So yes.
All right, definitely. Thank you so much once again for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Yaw Boadu, right?
Yeah, Boadu-Ayeboafoh.
Wow, I got coming to Ghana.
We'll be waiting for you.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Do ensure to have a nice day, sir.
Thank you.
Right.